Did you know that in the early 19th century, Spanish-speaking Latin America came incredibly close to becoming a single nation, or at least of forming its own military alliance? Today, I invite you to join me as we dive into the fascinating and short-lived story of the Congress of Panama of 1826 and how it almost united Hispanic America into one country. It all started with Simón Bolívar, the continent's independence hero. 2 days before the Battle of Ayacucho, which would decide Latin American independence in December 1824, Bolívar wrote a letter to the leaders of the newly formed republics. He envisioned a unified continent with its own continental congress, much like the United States. But this dream faced significant challenges. First, the South did not attend. Chile and Paraguay were not interested in a confederacy, and Argentina was immersed into a 3-year war with the Brazilian Empire over Uruguay. The remaining nations did meet in Panama, but negotiations were incredibly tough. Let's look at the two main hot issues: border disputes and tariffs. First, there were unresolved border disputes. For example, Guayaquil was claimed by both Peru and Gran Colombia. Similarly, the Soconusco-Chiapas region was contested between Mexico and the United Provinces of Central America. These disputes made it difficult to apply the principle of utis possidetis, which meant everything you had before you will continue to have now. With unclear pre-independence borders, this principle was hard to enforce. Second, there was the issue of tariffs. While eliminating tariffs seems today like a straightforward step towards unity, the reality was that the new government had no other source of income. Let's remember, these were new countries, devastated by more than a decade of war. The only recurring revenue they could realistically obtain was from trade tariffs. Most international trade was conducted by ship, even within the continent. So without these tariffs, state revenues would plummet, risking economic stability. We couldn't have that. So there were no agreements on borders nor on trade. You might ask, did they agree on anything? Despite these challenges, the Congress did achieve a significant milestone: a military alliance. Hispanic America's independence was largely due to simultaneous rebellions across the continent. This unity in battle was formalized in the Treaty of Union, League, and Perpetual Confederation between Gran Colombia, Central America, Peru, and Mexico. In spite of this important alliance agreement that was reached, we need to understand expectations before this Congress were incredibly high. Anything less than forming a federal government or constitution, as the United States had done 50 years earlier, was going to be seen as a failure, as it finally was the case. The alliance treaty was seen as a disappointment for falling way short of forming a single nation. Even so, Gran Colombia quickly ratified it. In Peru, however, hostility towards Bolívar led to the rejection of the alliance treaty. But the most curious behavior was Mexico's. They also failed to ratify the treaty, even though it was already facing its own issues with Texas separatism and US expansionism. One would think having more allies could have unfurled Mexico, right? We can only wonder how history might have changed. Could the ratification of the treaty have prevented Mexico from losing half its territory to the United States? Could a united Hispanic America have stood stronger against external threats? We'll never know. Just like in life, the roads not taken remain a mystery. The Congress of Panama may not have achieved its grand vision, but it remains a fascinating chapter in the history of Latin America. It's not just a glimpse of what might have been, but also the start of a culture of diplomacy, of building shared forums and looking for common ground between our states. Eventually, we would resolve our border disputes, lower our tariffs with each other, and promote integration, but that's for another video.